then Marco Marchetti, they have this meeting of the heads of agency group today in Rome, and he had to cancel short term, but we have a good video with him, including a couple of questions. So the coordination group, deputy head Marco Marchetti, now on his perspective on the regulation overall, on the medical device status, on the medicinal product status, and then we have three very specific points on, let's say, the joint scientific consultation, methodological guidances. Unfortunately, again, as virtual, but I think very interesting.
So thanks for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here, even if in a virtual way. I'm really sorry that I am not able to join you in person for the meeting, but unfortunately, in the same day, we have a very important meeting organized in the Ministry of Health. We have the head of agency group, that is the group of the director of the HTA agency in Europe, and we have also the commission joining to this meeting. And we are going to talk in this meeting about the future scenario evolution of the HTA in Europe. So, I mean, I really like to give you a brief update of the state of the art of the implementation of the regulation. Now we are less than 2 months respect to the starting date of the application of the regulation. January 12 of the next year, we will start with joint scientific consultation and joint clinical assessment, and joint clinical assessment for ATMP and for oncologic product. Actually, we started as a coordination group to work on the last June 2022. I was elected as co-chair with a medical device expertise in November 2022. And it was one of my, I can say, best professional experience in my life, because we started with a really new process not existing all over the world. Actually, Europe is, according to my understanding, to my knowledge, the only context in which we are moving from a research aspect to a legislative context that have many implications, positive implications, and also some concern respect to the transferring of the HTA activities from a research context to an HTA, to a legislative context. What is the state of the art regulation? You know that the main news for this regulation is this is the first regulation in Europe that they have a co-legislation in which the member states are driving the implementation of the regulation, and not in the Commission have a role of support this implementation, giving administrative support, financial support, and IT support. Coordination group is the main political body that is deciding timing, implementation, and methods how to evaluate healthcare technology. Actually, we are in the stage in which we are adopting all the guidance, methodological document for that will be used on the next year for doing joint clinical assessment. We have the last meeting in September where we adopted, for example, the guidance on the validity of clinical study. We are planning for the next November meeting in the end of November, 28th of November, to adopt more than 10 methodological and guidance in order to start with JCA and JSC in the next year. So we are planning to have all in place to be ready to start with JCA and JSC at the end of this year. Actually, we are also, but this is not on top of the responsibility of the coordination group, but is more on the European Commission that is leading what is called the Comitology Committee, that is drafting all different implementing acts that are requested for the application of the regulation. Actually, we have totally 6 implementing acts. We have the first one on joint clinical assessment for pharmaceutical product that has been adopted in the last May. We have just adopting two more implementing acts. The first one was the EMA HTA coordination group EU Commission exchange of information. It's quite important, this implementing act, because it's designing the interconnection among different European body, different European institutions. It's the first time that is written in a legislative document how European institutions need to be connected among themselves. And then finally, the third implementing act that is under adoption, I expect to be the publication in very few days in the official journal of the European Union, is the implementing act on the conflict of interest. Also in this case, it's quite news, very important news, because it's the first time that in Europe the managing process for conflict of interest is organized, is foreseen by a legislative act. For sure, this will have an impact also in all European and national procedure for managing conflict of interest. Actually, is under consultation the implementing act on joint scientific consultation on pharmaceutical product, and we are in place to discuss among member states the draft implementing act, both for joint scientific consultation and joint clinical assessment for medical devices. I would like to focus on medical devices. So, because for medical devices, I mean, the timing for the application of the regulation has been decided, and in the second part of the next year, we start with joint scientific consultation, and from the January 2026, we will start with joint clinical assessment for medical devices. As you know, I mean, for medical devices, the scope of the regulation is quite more limited with respect to the pharma, because is focused just on the Class 2B and Class 3 implantable medical devices that are going under the expert process that is coordinated by the EMA and according to the Article 54 of the MDR. So, I mean, we are talking about a very, limited number of medical devices. If we look to the number in the previous years, because also MDR is under implementation, and the expert panel process started in the early 2022, we have more or less 15-20 medical devices per year. I mean, this for sure is just some draft estimation with respect to the story of the past, but this depends how is going fast the innovation process in Europe. So, if we I'm going to think that innovation process is not going fast. This is the number that we are going to face. So, for medical devices, we are talking about among member states, and this is one of the main issues that we are discussing, where joint clinical assessment need to be started with respect to the CE mark, because the CE mark is the starting point of formal JCA. So, before the CE mark, all the information are confidential. After the CE mark, formally we can start for JCA for medical devices. Respect to the pharma product, it's quite more close. The date of the application, we are talking about the next January. And as I mentioned you at the beginning, in the next January, we are going to start with the NTP and the oncologic product. And this is a very, important example of one of the main objective of the topic of the regulation. So the co-creation among member states, the European Union, of a new interconnected European system. You know that the process foresees that when the industry manufacturer, or as they are called in the HTA regulation, HTA developer, send the application letter of intent to the EMA, and they need to send at least 6 months before early respect to the application. Actually, from the last June, EMA has changed the form for letter application. They need to to check a box in which they are declaring if the product is eligible for joint clinical assessment. So, I mean, we are receiving some application up to now. I'm not able to tell exactly the number because are confidential, not public information, are confidential information. Because also in this case, I mean, how many joint clinical assessment we can expect for the next year for 18 PA oncologic product? This is quite difficult to say. I mean, there is some provision, but it's really related to the application of the HDD developer. So even if we are letter of intent that has been already submitted, so we are receiving letter of intent of the last June, we are not really sure that after January 12, this HTA developer will really apply for the EMA process. So it's depending by how the clinical study, phase 3 clinical study are going, and so many variables are inside. This is the main scenario of the regulation. So actually, I would like just to highlight our last point that is related that what is the experience after 2 years and a half of working in such European context. I can bring you my perspective, and my perspective is that in these 2 years and a half, I mean, even if we had previously the experience of the European Network of Technology Assessment, the UNETA 21, I mean, we really increased the willingness for member states to work together. We're able to create really a network of persons, know each other. That I mean, we are really was able to create trust among not just person but also the institution. Then this is the context in which we are working about, and finally, the regulation also will foresee for the in the 2026 a formal feedback from the member state to the Commission respect to what should be the impact on the national process. And in 2028, according to the general rules for all the regulation could be amended, and probably some point to the regulation after that we are trying to transfer into the operational process will be as needed to be amended. So this is a quite challenges change in the European context. It's quite, I mean, according to me, it's quite something really important. We are doing something that, I mean, probably will change in some way the scenario, not just in Europe, but worldwide. Can just imagine how should be the impact on the clinical study plan for new product, and when you have 27 member states that have the same rules and the same methodological guidance and the same process to have access to more than 500 million of persons living in Europe. So this is the I mean, the really interesting story that I'm living the last 2 years and a half, and really thanks again the organizer for inviting me. I hope that you will enjoy the meeting and that you have very fruitful discussion respect to the informal side in respect to the HTA regulation. Thanks again.